Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show. It's another Sunday, so that means another Hog Hoops report. Kevin, it's been a slow drip. We talked before we hopped on here of news so far, perhaps slower than Arkansas fans would have liked with John Calipari, commitments and all, but Arkansas does get its first commitment, first signee of the Calipari era with Zvonimir Ivicic. Get used to saying that. Maybe just go with Big Z if that's easier for you, Arkansas fans. 7'2" Croatian center. He comes over, obviously, from Kentucky, where he was coached by Calipari. It's an expected pickup, but it's a nice start for Arkansas. We'll see what ultimately shows to come, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, you start off with a 7'2" big man. I think people understand, not that good guards are a dime a dozen, but relative to good big men, of course. I mean, they're fewer and far between, and so you're on the board with your first player. You've got 12 more to go. We know it's an offer in terms of scholarship players that we think are returning. And then you've got a bunch of different buckets, Jacob, to choose from, I guess, if you're John Calipari. Players you had signed or committed to Kentucky that are 5 of the 6 have already gotten releases from their signed national letters of intent, or they've requested them, or they just decommitted if they hadn't signed yet. So 5 out of 6, the 5 that have done that, all top 50 players. 4 of those are 5 stars. 3 of them were McDonald's All-Americans. So you've got that you've got an eye on. You've got more players in the portal for Kentucky outside of Big Z. Adu Thero, a 6'8" wing, played 2 seasons under Calipari. Arkansas is reportedly among the Final 5 schools, or tops on his list among 5 programs. He's also looking at the professional possibilities. You've had DJ Wagner, whose family goes back playing, his dad playing with Cal at Memphis. Who's in the portal now, 6'3" guard, averaged 10 points a game, over nearly 3.5 assists, and had a 2-to-1, better than a 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio. So keep an eye on DJ Wagner. But also in the portal, I think just yesterday, Jordan Burks was a freshman last year, 6'8" wing. Now, he didn't play a lot. I played in 20 games, I think, averaged about 7 minutes a game in those 20. But now he's in the portal. He's a guy that's played for Calipari. You look at Arkansas, has got some guys still hanging out there. I spoke with one of the parents earlier today of one of the players that's in the portal, and it's been kind of quiet. Not a lot coming out there in terms of meetings with Cal, who might consider staying. But, we know Caleb Battle, someone who we haven't seen intentions announced from him, similar to Layden Blocker, who was a freshman guard last year from Little Rock. You have Devo Davis, another Central Arkansas player that's out there taking visits. Of course, Bay Falls in the portal as well, the 6'11" McDonald's All-American in 2023. So you've got, from Kentucky's portal, Arkansas's portal. I mentioned 6 high school players. 3 of those, by the way, that I'm aware of will be playing here shortly today in the Jordan Brand Classic in Brooklyn. Carter Knox, the 5-star McDonald's All-American, 6'6" wing. Older brother Kevin played for Calipari at Kentucky, was a lottery pick in the NBA draft. A player thought to be that Arkansas may have a really good shot at and could be maybe the next name off the board. We'll see. Things have been so quiet that I'm not really sure at this point when or how the next one's coming. But Carter Knox is a name that's thrown out there a lot. Jaden Quainton, 6'9" forward, another McDonald's All-American, top 10 rated player, 16-year-old. He'll need to spend 2 years. He won't be a one and done. He'll have to spend 2 years away post high school. You'd think that whatever college he goes to, he'll spend both seasons there. But he's another player that'll be participating in this game tonight. And then Billy Richmond, out of the playing at Camden High School in New Jersey, but out of the Memphis area, another legacy when you talk about Calipari, or would be if he joined him. But he just decommitted this week, just a few days ago, from Kentucky. Another composite national number 25, so a 5-star in the composite rankings. Every once in a while, you'll see a player make a commitment announcement around that game or during it at halftime or something. Don't know if anything's in the works like that tonight. But there's just a lot of question marks right now in terms of players outside of landing Big Z. That seems like old news now. But the Kenny Payne, longtime assistant coach to Calipari at Kentucky, assistant coach, then associate head coach. We know he played at Louisville, ended up being Louisville's head coach the last year. That didn't work out. Was let go after the season, kind of got that coaching carousel, kind of helped start churning that out to where we are today. But Kenny Payne named associate head coach. I fully expected that would happen. You've got coaches or former Hogs, I'll say it that way, with whose names are in the mix. You think Ronnie Burr Jr., who was on the previous staff, is someone being considered potentially for a staff position, as well as Joe Johnson. I've been talking about that now for over a week, but Joe Johnson's name is, he's being considered. I think he's considering some kind of position here. Doesn't mean it's going to work out, but just another name with Arkansas ties. And I think Calipari is going to bring quite a few coaches with him that were with him at Kentucky, but none of things been announced formally. So you've got a lot of question marks, a lot more of those right now, Jacob, than you have answers, because outside of Calipari's hire, we're what, a week and a half? It seems longer than that, but it's about a week and a half. We're a week and a half outside of that, and we've got two names that we know of coming with him, Big Z and Kenny Payne, formally. There'll be more. We went through some of it. And look, there's some portal names not associated with Kentucky and Arkansas we could hit real quick as we look ahead to what possibly could be.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny Payne, a big name, obviously it didn't go the way that he or Louisville fans wanted, but he was a big part of Calipari's staffs for a while. But let's hit those transfer portal names. Where does Arkansas look here? And again, I think there is a bit of, we got to preach patience here. Coach Cal has a different strategy, a different approach than Coach Musselman, and I think that's taken everybody a little bit of time to get adjusted to. But what are some of those names? What are some of those areas Arkansas will be looking at to continue to try to fill that roster?
Yeah, well, I've noticed of late activity with contacts with frontline guys and big wings that can shoot. And so you're talking about Kobe Brea out of Dayton, a really good mid-major program, just a sniper, nearly 50%, 100 of 201 from three last year. So it's a volume shooter. Most of his points, 11 points per game. This guy's making three threes per game. So most of his scoring coming from the three-point line. And you look at that 49.8% from three. Arkansas has been one of the schools to reach out to him. Big 6'6" wing, sharp shooter, catch and shoot kind of guy. Good spot up craft. And he's a guy that I mentioned the volume of his scoring comes from around the three-point arc. Reminds me a little bit of Isaiah Joe, another sniper with range out to 25 feet, comfortable NBA range, he economizes the ball handling stuff, economizing the dribble drive craft to get into his shot. It doesn't take much for these guys, and they get the bulk of their scoring again from behind that three-point line, but shoots nearly 88% from the foul line. Just a really good all-around player. So there's one of the wing-type guys that they've been looking at. When you look at the front court, Brandon Garrison, Arkansas's previous staff, a McDonald's All-American in 2023, transferring after a freshman season at Oklahoma State. Arkansas's previous staff had recruited him heavily. But again, when you're a McDonald's All-American, a lot of big-name schools do. And Arkansas's trying to get in the mix with Brandon Garrison. He was supposedly having a visit over the weekend to Texas, recently visited OU, looking at Arkansas and Kentucky. So we'll see if Arkansas is able to get him to come visit this week if he doesn't commit to one of the two schools coming into the SEC, OU or this Texas visit. But Brandon Garrison, 6'11", a guy that does a lot of the blue-collar stuff that you get from traditional big men around the basket. And so he's can be a really active guy playing above the rim in transition as well. A couple of more big men, Kessian Pryor, 6'9" forward out of South Florida, 13 points per game. But a guy that's got a little bit of face-up skill to go with some of the other stuff he does. Arkansas has been in contact with him as well. And then Sean Stewart, 6'9" forward out of Duke. Duke's had a lot of players going in the portal. Former McDonald's All-American freshman season, just had that. Didn't put up big numbers, but again, the type of guy that the Blue Bloods are always going to be sniffing around. And John Calipari, as the greatest recruiter of all time, is going to kick a lot of tires, even if, like you said, the activity is not as publicly known as what an Eric Musselman would do, reaching out to everybody. And but they're still going to be doing the due diligence on some of these bigger names. But I just went through three players at the end of that, 6'9", 6'9", and 6'11", and so you're seeing front line and some of the wing, and maybe getting some shooters on that wing. Liam McNeely, a 5-star in the 2024 class. Calipari out to see him at Montverde Academy this week. Another sharpshooter guy, between 40 and 50% everywhere he goes on the grassroots circuits or playing in high school. When you talk about three-point shooting, and he's a big wing shooter, 6'7", 6'8". He does other things as well, Jacob.
Yeah, and it should be interesting, again, where Calipari continues to prioritize in terms of the type of players he's looking at. And I think it's interesting that you're pointing out size, right? That's something that has been clearly made a priority. And again, we're kind of waiting to see in terms of the type of guy that Calipari brings in. We've hit Kenny Payne. We've hit Big Z. Anything else you want to hit before we go, Kevin?
Not really, other than, man, I mean, I can only do so much clock watching. I need some activity. I need content, Jacob. And we're talking about some of the guys that Arkansas is in motion with. But when you get a brand new coach in and you still haven't heard all the names on the staff yet, we think we know he's bringing most of the guys with him. Hasn't been formally announced. Just this week on the recruiting trail, I saw Chin Coleman, one of his assistants at Kentucky, with Calipari in Atlanta for the Overtime Elite Spring Combine. I mentioned Carter Knox, another big man. Psalm 2 Cyril, who just visited Georgia, 6'10", 252 pounds. Averaged his per 40-minute numbers are 18, and 6.5 blocks at Overtime Elite last season. So these are all players. He's out there on the recruiting trail. He's doing the job, but it's a slow roll. It's a trickle. It's a slow drip on actual news. Things with when they've got fangs and hair and teeth. That's what I'm looking for. Everything else right now is just speculation.
Should be interesting to watch. Hopefully, less of a slow drip news week coming up. But that's going to do it for this week's Hog Hoops Report. For Kevin McPherson, I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week. But for now, more Pig Trail Show coming up after the break.